What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 2 of my weekly Rust Tips series. This week's tips are based off of last week's solo playthrough series episodes, which were Wipe 2 episodes 1 through 5. I try not to repeat tips, so be sure to check out the other episodes on the channel to get all of my current tips, and subscribe to make sure you get the latest ones. Anyways, let's get started. Be careful after killing a farmer. They could live close by and be deadly, so try to leave the area immediately. Also, make sure they don't follow you home. The safe zones have a hostile indicator on the top right corner of your screen. If you see the red crosshair, that means you are considered hostile to a safe zone. So, for example, outpost. If you get too close to the safe zone while you have this indicator up on your screen, you will get shot at. If you press tab, there's actually a timer. So when this timer expires, that means you are good to go as far as entering the safe zone goes. Anytime you shoot a weapon, whether it's a crossbow, a bow, or any sort of gun, the timer does reset. And if you get too close and you get shot at while you still have this timer, the timer increases to 30 minutes. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. The healing teas can be found in the food crates, such as this one. These food crates spawn in the barrel piles, which are found along the road. So not only is it a good idea to run the road in the beginning for the starting loot, but to also get a crate and hopefully get a healing tea to get that full heal off. Know the raw material value of items to figure out the value of a particular slot in your inventory. For example, if you pick up an item, let's just say a burlap shirt, obviously put it on and wear it if you can, but for now we'll say it's in your inventory. You want to keep in mind that a burlap shirt is essentially the same as a stack of 20 cloth because that is how much it costs to craft it. But cloth can stack up to 1,000 on its own. So if you have the space, obviously hold on to it if you want to, but if you are loaded and you kill a guy who is also loaded, remember that the shirt is probably not worth holding on to. You can apply this logic to all sorts of items in the game, but not every item, because remember that some items are more vital and have other uses than other items. For example, 2 medical syringes or a stack of medical syringes are worth 30 cloth, 20 metal frags, and 20 low grade crafting cost wise. Not worth that much when you look at it that way, except that they can be used to heal you in a fight, whereas a burlap shirt sitting in your inventory provides nothing. So just keep that in mind too. Let's say for whatever reason, after you build your first base, you have some extra materials and you don't have, for whatever reason, any storage space. What you can consider doing is just throwing the essentials on the ground temporarily while you go out and hit a tree really quick. To get wood so you can make some boxes. The despawn timers on most of the stuff is 5 minutes or above. There's no item in the game that's going to despawn in less than 5 minutes. So 5 minutes should give you plenty of time to leave your base, hit a tree or two, and have enough to craft at least some small boxes to start off, or a tool cupboard if you still don't have a tool cupboard in this case. But yeah, consider doing that. Just be careful when you drop stuff. They could go through the floor and you might lose it that way, but that's the only thing to worry about for that part. You have up until 10 minutes to destroy a structure of your base when you have a tool cupboard. So what I mean by that is, for example, let's say you built the base, just a 2x1. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. And for whatever reason, you're like, wait a second, I really want a 2x2. So what you could do is, whether you have the materials or not, you don't have to have them immediately. Again, you have 10 minutes. You can build like this outside shell. As long as you get that done in under 10 minutes from first placing these inside walls, you could, if you want to, have the option to demolish it. You have up until 10 minutes to when you place something. This is also useful for example, let's say you're building the base and you don't have doors. For whatever reason, you just don't have a door. So what you do is this. You can craft your door with the materials that you have. Place the door here, close it, and then demolish this wall later, and then you can build your other door right here as well. That's another option for that. And also, if you're raiding a base, let's say you break in, you get the tool cupboard access, and you're like, oh shoot, let's seal this up. You don't have to put a door right away. It might take a little bit more time, but You can place a wall down, make an airlock right here if you wanted to. Get all the stuff from the raid, and then when you're ready to leave in under 10 minutes, again, remember 10 minutes is key, break this wall down, and you can leave the raid. So that's another option that people, the way people use this. Have a plan every time you leave your base. Are you going to farm, roam for PvP, run a monument for scrap, go recycle somewhere, scout out a raid target, find food, whatever, doesn't matter. Make sure you have a plan. I've mentioned before how important it is getting your first furnace at the start, particularly for smelting metal for your first 2 metal doors. Consider the option of recycling items for metal frags instead. You can even argue it's easier to get 300 metal frags from recycling than finding 50 low grade and then smelting 300 metal ore, but do whatever makes sense to you at the time. Both the harbor monuments, large and small, in my opinion, are super underrated. People hate on them because I think they just don't know how much loot is actually at these places or how to loot it efficiently. I will say swimming in the water to get some of the boxes does suck and can get you killed sometimes, but these monuments spawn both boxes, the big brown ones and the green military crates, with a good amount of spawn locations. There's barrels everywhere. There's low-grade barrels everywhere. There's a refinery. They have blue card spawns, and they come with a recycler that's pretty defendable and pretty safe to recycle at. So yeah, this place is super underrated. Check out my monument guides on these monuments as well on my channel if you haven't already. They're super helpful. Okay, so we're at the harbor, particularly the small harbor. It's the one that has the smaller piers on it, not just the big fat one. So we're by the recycler. Just wanted to explain a defense strategy that I use. So a lot of people, what they do is when they're recycling, they'll either sit right here, which is really bad, or they'll typically defend from back here. I don't usually like to defend from back here because I would rather be in front of it. The reason for this is because you have a wider angle of view to see if people are coming up, and I find it a lot easier to know if I see someone from far away coming up and I have more time to prepare for a fight than just them sneaking up on me or just ambushing me without expecting it. It's just a little tip there. When you're swapping out your wooden door for your first metal door, and if you're by yourself, I would suggest you swap out the wooden door that's on the inside, not the outside. The reason for this is if you go to swap out your outside door instead, and you take it off, then you die like this, whoever killed you, they now have access, or they only need to break one wooden door to get into your base. They may or may not take advantage of this, but just to be careful and to be safe, I just swap out the inside door first. Of course, you could check to make sure the outside is clear before you do this and take this door off, but just to be safe, I just like to swap out my inside door first. When starting out, hold on to your seeds and try to plant them right outside your base for the little extra cloth or food. It all adds up. Abandoned Cabins has a couple of med crate spawns, one right here and one right here. I wouldn't travel across the map to necessarily come here to loot these, but if you're passing by or your base nearby, I'd check it every once in a while. The gas stations and supermarkets might be small monuments, but they do have a green military crate spawn and a green card spawn. It's worth checking these spots every time you pass these monuments, but be careful of the campers inside. Outpost is another safe zone offered in the game, and there's a bunch of stuff you can do here. It's pretty sweet. It's got a repair bench, 3 recyclers, finally, a research table, a vending machine where you can buy car parts, another vending machine where you can buy other components at, a water collector so you can drink water out of here. You can also put water into containers if you want. A stage with the instruments so you can mess around with on that. A bunch of chairs, you can comfort heal here. There's a barbecue to cook food, another vending machine with another whole set of components. Over here there's there's more shops. You get a whole bunch of raw materials, a whole bunch of other components. There's a refinery, you can smelt the crude oil here. Level 1 workbenches, so you can craft crossbows here and other level 1 stuff even if you don't have a workbench or a base yet. That's super helpful. It's another shop here where you can buy like small oil refineries and furnaces and a whole bunch of other stuff. There's even more shops over here. You can buy a bunch of clothes, some horse clothing and stuff, some tools and other useful items. And there's also weapons here, so basic weapons like revolvers and double barrels. I wouldn't say it's worth 200 scrap to get either of these, but it's up to you if you really want a gun. But yeah, it's a really cool place. The healing teas are awesome. They're great to find starting off with the opportunity of getting to full health, but also nice to collect and keep in your base too, because when you spawn, you can drink one to get to full health. This is an alternative to eating food and comfort healing, so it's very useful to have these if you can't craft a chariot or you don't have any food. The crossbow is super awesome for breaking barrels because it only takes one shot, and most of the time you can even pick up your arrow after you shoot it. It is beneficial to research some of the what are considered junk items. This is only true when you are using the experiment feature on a workbench. What an experiment does is you spend scrap and you get a random blueprint that you have not learned yet. Each level of workbench has its own pool of blueprints that you can get. Since you can get items that you have not researched yet, there's a chance that you spend 1,000 scrap only to get a blueprint for an item that would have cost only 125 scrap to research. Granted, you would have had to find the item, which could be hard for some people, but for now, we'll ignore that. The following items cost less to research than the experiment. So what you're going to want to do to figure this out is go to rustlabs.com, which is awesome. Not just for this, it's an awesome website for anything you need any information on Rust. But as you can see, level 1 workbench, an experiment cost is 75. So you can spend 75 scrap on an experiment, and you can end up getting like the tank top blueprint, which is terrible. So, but you find, odds are you'll find some tank tops somewhere in a crate. Someone's wearing one, whatever. So you can research it to increase your odds of getting something better, like a revolver, a weapons flashlight, satchel charge, shotgun trap, anything of the good items. So it's a good idea to, if you find one of these lower tier items, to maybe consider researching it if you plan on doing experiments. Same thing goes with level 2, but the price is a little different. So here's this one you definitely want to do. So if you plan on doing an experiment on the level 2 workbench, make sure you have stuff like roadside gloves. Research, you can get gloves at Bandit Camp and research them for 60 scrap. I think you can buy them for 40, and then if you bring an extra 20 scrap, you can research them at Bandit Camp. So make sure you have stuff like that research, because you don't want to spend 300 scrap just to roll an item like roadside gloves. You want to get all these junky items done, so that way if you want to roll for an item, let's say high velocity rockets or a rocket launcher, and if you have all the junky items, your odds of getting a good item are better. And same thing goes with the level 3 workbench. You can spend 1,000 scrap and get the weapons laser sight BP, which would be terrible. You're better off trying to find these. I mean, you can argue it might be easier for some people to grind out 1,000 scrap than try to do like oil rig without getting countered or something, or Bradley or the helicopter. You could argue that, but to me, I would say don't do an experiment of 1,000 until you have all of these 125s done. I mean, you could argue to you maybe 1,000 scrap is worth it to get explosive ammo. Maybe. I don't think it is, but yeah, just keep that in mind. Human meat is not a bad source of food at the start if you're near a fresh water source. So for example, you can cook it, you can eat the food, use it to get your food up, and when you get dehydrated, drink from the fresh water source. And just keep doing this until you get to a value you're comfortable with. And then from here on, you can comfort heal. The patrol helicopter will consider you hostile and shoot at you and attack you if you satisfy either of the following conditions. So it doesn't have to be both, just one of them. You can do both and it still will attack you. You can do one of the other and it will still attack you. And those conditions are you're wearing more than 2 pieces of clothing, or you have any type of ranged weapon in your hotbar. Ranged weapon doesn't include the hunting bow. Know the radiation protection needed for each monument and the particular areas within each monument. I don't know them off the top of my head for every spot on the map, but for the most part, if you're naked and you get rads, try 11% protection. If you're still getting rads, try 26% protection. Then after that, if you're still getting rads, you probably need the hazmat suit, so 50% protection. So you'll either need, for the most part, no rad protection, over 10%, over 25%, or 50%. Surgeon scrubs are another one of those items that you can buy off the Steam community market in order to craft them. It offers a decent overall projectile damage protection at 25% everywhere. They are pretty easy to make as well. I will make these if I'm using a gun and don't have access to anything better head protection wise above 25%. They go for $14 on the Steam Community Market right now. And honestly, I wouldn't say they're worth it right now, but if you really love this game and you play a lot, I'd say go for it. Don't get greedy. If you have an item that you have been looking for or really need, get it back to base safely. Don't pick any more fights. If you're full on inventory, you're full. You could replace the items with potentially better ones if you fight someone, but I would not recommend that. Don't be greedy. Be careful exploring new areas of the map. Your base area may be super dead and it may seem like an easy server, but don't get cocky. When you roam, you may run into better players or groups and get stomped. Just because the couple of squares you've been playing in have been safe doesn't mean the rest of the map is. Before running across the map with boom to raid a base, make sure the route from your base to the target is relatively safe. Dying to an unknown roof camper with a lot of loot would suck. Last time I mentioned that you want to recycle sewing kits in the recycler one at a time to get the most rope and most materials out of it. Well, you also want to do this with computers and cameras. So overall, with the recycler, you want to recycle sewing kits, targeting computers, and CCTV cameras all one at a time to get the most loot out of them. The only supplies healing wise for running the puzzle at launch site, the puzzle which you climb to the top of the huge building to get the elite crates, is a jug of water with no more than 1,000 milliliters of water in it and no more than 9 bandages. That's all you need. You really only need like 600 milliliters of water and 7 bandages, but just to be safe, bring 1,000 milliliters of water in a jug and 9 bandages. Obviously, wear a hazmat suit, bring the green card, bring the red card, and bring the 2 fuses. But with these supplies, you can climb to the top as fast as possible, loot the crates that you run into on the way up. You can get the 2 military crates on the catwalks. You can get the elite crates on the top and the other crates surrounding the helicopter. And you can get the military crate by the stairs on the way out. On the way up, drink the water from the jug whenever your rads gets to 5. And then use a bandage whenever your health goes to 95 or lower. And you'll have no issues. So all over the map, there's going to be these sites which are watering wells. And what they look like on the map is something like this, zoomed in. And basically what they do is you can pump water. And you can do this as many times as you want. Every pump, it gives 50 milliliters of water into here. So what you want to do is you can open this up and you can transfer the water into a water container in your inventory, or you can drink it by hitting this cup right here. Really good way of getting fresh water if you're not near a freshwater source. And the final tip for this week is try to keep your furnaces running at all times when you're outside of your base, when you're in your base. Doesn't matter. Have them on as much as possible. It saves time. Yo, thanks for watching this week's Rust Tips video. Be sure to check out the rest of the channel for more tips, monument guides, and a solo playthrough series. I stream on Twitch, so check that out as well. Join the Discord. If you want to see videos similar to this one, be sure to subscribe. Also leave a like. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave a comment in the comment section below. Thanks again. Peace.